to talk about. One is an online instructional option called Odyssey, where you know that for summer school we use a program from NovaNet called GradPoint. We also tried out a pilot on Skills Tutor, and we also then sat and had a demonstration a couple hours long, Russell and I, with the Odysseyware company. And the one that we chose to recommend is the Odysseyware. One price takes care of everything. The different needs that we anticipate using it for initially is for academic intervention services, where a teacher might have 6 students and they all have different needs or levels, but they're all within the same, perhaps, reading class or math class. And one of the advantages of Odysseyware is it takes the courses, it chunks them into units, and we can the teacher can actually decide what units need to be covered and kind of create a course so that student would be able to be working on the computer when she might be working individually with another student on another skill. So it doesn't really leave students to work on their own. The Odysseyware program, you can highlight the text, and then you can read the text to the students, so students who are in resource room could have information being read to them, not with the teacher themselves, but that I think will help for those students who that's part of their IEP. It can be used for credit recovery for summer school, meaning students failed a course and they need to make up units, and it's mastery based so that the student could take a pretest. If they pass that unit, they don't do that unit again, they just go on to the next one, and they can do credit recovery that way. A new concept that we can put into place is the idea of grade recovery, meaning that if a teacher finished a unit and the student bombed the unit, we could actually set up the course and get that unit back in, and the student could be set up to come and make that up then, instead of waiting till the end of the year and failing the full course. We can use it for out-of-school suspension. If a student is out for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, the longer term ones, the teacher can actually pick the units that they would like that student to work on while they're out of school suspended, and it grades it themselves. And actually Odysseyware has still a piece also where essays can be written, and it has to right now go back to the content area teacher to be graded, but I think that that's important, that it's not all multiple choice, that there's actually essay writing that's included also. It's we can use it for our medically homebound students for the same idea. Teachers can also add units into Odysseyware, and like Mr. Buckley does the Lorax project every year with his living environment. If a student was out and missing that for some reason, that could be put in to the computer program for that course, so the teacher can manipulate the course to make it what she wants or what he wants, either way. So I look at it as I think it's a good way to go. It does not take the place of a teacher ever. In fact, the way it is set up, you can put how many times a student can have to go through a unit or go through a lesson. And usually after, if it's green, it means they're okay in the grade book. The teacher will know they've accomplished it and they move on. If it has a yellow symbol, it means they're still underway, they're under construction basically, still working on that. If they go through it 3 times and they still have not successfully mastered the lesson, a red symbol will come up in the grade book. The student cannot go on, and that definitely tells the teacher intervention is needed. It has a component that the student can message the teacher, and the teacher can message the student as far as communication, so when they get stuck, there's a way within the program for them to talk to each other. Not to say it's solved by the teacher on the other end, but the teacher knows I need to get help to this student. what we would look to do is buy, I think 10 would be the right way to go. It costs $605 for a seat. And these are concurrent seats, meaning that one student could be on it for an hour or for a period, and then the next period another student can be on that, and the next period another student can be on it. So over the course of the day, we have 8 periods times 10 seats. That's 80 students that it could impact. It does go all the way down to the 3rd grade level up to the 12th grade level, which means our resource room, or actually our response to intervention in the 7th, 8th grade, where we're trying to work on skills, can go back down to a lower level and pull that unit for those kids to work on their weaknesses. So I just think there's a lot of advantages to it. But like I said, it is not to replace a teacher. It's for the teacher to be actually able to work one-on-one to a particular student's needs in a closer way. And hopefully it'll get to the point where students aren't failing, that we've caught them prior to the end of the year. We set the mastery level, so if we, and our mastery level, I would say we're going to be setting it at about an 80% to 85%. That's about what the Regents exams and the career and college ready stuff is kind of saying on the test. That's what kids should be getting. Another feature is it can translate. We don't have any ELL students, but if we had any English language learners with our foreign exchange students, we could use it. It's not the purpose of the exchange students coming here. But if we did have a student that all of a sudden moved in that was Russian speaking, it will translate the unit into their language for them, so that takes care of that. So if we got 10 concurrent seats, there would be 10 students at a time, but included in this is also teacher licenses. Every teacher will have a license and would have access, so they can actually go in and pull material from the OdysseyWare program as well. So I think that it meets a lot of our needs. So I'm presenting this as the idea. There is a parent portal, meaning that it can be open and the parent can go in and see what the student is doing as well. $605 for 24/7. You know, it's accessible all day. So our out-of-school kids, we would pretty much be saying your time slot is like after 3, from 3 to 7 or like that. Or if there are kids here that we want them to work on an assignment at home and they have internet access, we have the option of doing that. That just comes into scheduling. Textbooks for the AP courses that are offered. There are textbooks that the kids will have to get, that we would, not the kids would have to get, we would have to supply for the students. Everything else, the textbooks are included. There's a strong emphasis on vocabulary. There's some game type, review type things to work on vocabulary. If you don't know a word, you can highlight the word and it will give you an auditory, this is how you say it and this is what it means for vocabulary development. And it's $2,000 for training for the staff to get trained on it. Once it's in place, that initial training, then that's the end of that. And then the 605 is we'll be able to use it all the way through to September 1 next year as well. So it will cover our summer school without a problem. So do you have any questions on that? There is a website that you can go on to that will show you more about it. In most of the lessons, there is a video component that brings it to real life. Columbus crossing the ocean, you might see that in a visual, or George Washington crossing the Delaware, or different types of things. So they try to make it interactive.
So are there any schools in the area that are using this or something similar to it that we get some feedback from?
Potsdam, Messina has been using it for a couple of years. Brazier Falls is going to be coming on board, and we're actually sharing the training. So what was supposed to have been $4,500 or $3,500 for the training will be $2,000, and they're going to pay their portion. They're going to train both groups at the same time and cut costs that way. So Potsdam is considering it. They're not sure if they're making the move this year, but what we see with the Odyssey where NovaNet, I believe, was one of the first programs, and it's kind of, we're switching from a old student management system to a new one, and I think OdysseyWare is the new thing, just like School Tool is a newer device than Web to School, and I think the ones that were here first kind of got stuck that they had to market and they didn't grow like they should have, and that these other ones have features that are making it more user-friendly and moving forward. The one negative about OdysseyWare that NovaNet GradPoint is better is that they have a bank of questions so that when a student retakes an exam, they're not taking the same exam again. OdysseyWare does not have that in place yet. They can take it again, the same questions, you can change the order so kids can't memorize it. But I guess the bottom line is they're looking at it as this is a mastery program, and the bottom line is in the end you want them to be able to give you the feedback. But we did tell them that that's a real negative in our mind, not having a test bank. And most of these programs, they're listening to customer service because that's what keeps people coming on to them. And we would expect, she said, you're not the first one to say that, so I think that that's something that will be coming. So,
are you training all staff or just some group?
what I'm going to start with, hopefully, is I'm going to ask the teachers of the AIS to start with, the Academic Intervention Service people to start with. I will send out an email to see, they train about 10, 12 people. Fraser has about 4 coming, so I have room for 6 to 8. I'd like to get my AIS, math, and ELA people first really connected to that and ready to use it.
Are you saying it's going to cost $2,000 for each time to train? Like
No, that's the training cost period. And as they update, if new training is required, there's no additional fee for the next training of something else they bring in. They also run webinars that we can, and I've done actually a lot of webinars in the last 3 months, and for me it works doing a webinar because what they do is they get right on the other end, and there's contact people, and I can call them. Russell used the Skills Tutor contact several times over, and they're very helpful about making sure we know what we're doing. So,
How is it, what's in this program aligned to the state curriculum?
New York State standards. People that have used it have had success with their Regents programs, with kids being prepared for the Regents program. We also have Castle Learning that we can use, which is a multiple choice question structured in the same language supposedly as the New York State Regents exams that there's been success from.
So you'd have, like, if you, let's say you're teaching earth science, for example, and you have something in here that would basically some earth science oriented lessons that would rely on that.
We're not using it as the initial way to teach courses, not core courses. So like every student who's taking earth science will be in a real earth science class. If a student failed the earth science program, it would be a way for them to go back and do a credit recovery, a summer school program to show mastery of it. And like I said, the grade recovery option I think is another way to go on this. Within this, there's a skills diagnostician program and a skills essential program. That would be like for the kids who are missing basic foundational skills that they need. There's also a GED component that we'll see how it goes, and if in a year or two, it depends how you structure. You have to have a teacher in a room that works with the types of kids in a GED program that need the GED program. Harrisville has used NovaNet very successfully, and they do not send kids to another school for the GED program. But I don't want to initially say this is how we're going at it. I'm not ready to make that jump yet with those kids.
You're not saying that a student that fails earth science can go in through this pass-through signs? Is that what you're saying?
If we, yes, they can. We could set it up that this is their summer school program, and that they would do this course after they failed the course they're taking. And then this course, they would take pre-tests in all of the units. One of the things our retention committee that's been looking at this idea said that students who fail a class in grades 5, 6, 7, 8, that we're going to ask or expect that the classroom teacher should be setting up the summer school program for these kids so that they will know in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th, 8th, what are their weaknesses and what units do they need to cover again. So it becomes pretty student-driven to what is the needs of that particular kid.
I can see a problem if a student has a problem with the teacher, and then the course, I think we have to fail the course before they're allowed to take it this way.
Yes.
Okay, because I can see a student coming in the summertime, I'll take this course and get it taken care of.
No, that's not, it's not. Now, to back up just a second, if we have like a student who needs help and we cannot fit a health course into their curriculum, this is an option, a very viable option. They have prescriptive courses and they have like new courses. And they'll have AP courses, but I don't think that we want to go that route yet either. I just want to kind of stay within the basic idea of how do we use it and start from that aspect, and then we can look to see what options we have from that. But we're going to be offering AP Modern European History, AP US History, AP Biology, but you know, we might have a kid that would like to take AP Statistics, and that's a course that I've seen kids do in this kind of format and be very successful with. Our AP Calculus kids do the distance learning program, and the Norwood instructor is the one that teaches that. And some years, we aren't the ones that get into that program. So that might be at a time where this might kick in from an AP standpoint. But the thing here is one price covers all of those things that I've said. Where with Novanet, for this price you got this, you pay a little more, you get this. Well, it doesn't go down beyond 5th grade, so you need the skills thing for that part, and this is a 3 to 12 program. I'm looking at my 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and well, our kids that failed US history, this would be a good way for them to do academic intervention services in preparation for the January test that they're going to have to take it again. And each of them that failed might have a different reason or a different area that they were weak at. So this will give them an opportunity to work on the things that they are deficient in and makes it so you can handle a diverse group of learners at the same time.
And the teacher that's here, like for, you say US history, the teacher that's here, he can see what this kid is doing?
Yes.
So that he can see.
And there's a lot of reports, how much time they're working, what kind of work they're doing, what their lesson grades are to, you know, every lesson they're doing. Yeah, so that's all tracked and monitored through the program.
I see a lot of teacher involvement. Have you spoken to any of the teachers about this? And how do you think how many will come on board? Because obviously it's going to be teacher driven.
With the data-driven instruction push that's coming, and how do you attack the the scores on our testing to make it more individualized? This should give that option more. When I asked Stephanie Stone, who is our reading Title I person, 7, 8, 9, she was coming right to the train. You know, like it wasn't, oh no, I don't feel it. She was right on board. I was kind of actually waiting till the board says yay or nay before I put it out to the rest of the people we have training that we can do August 30th, and I guess I would get a better feel at that point. But I think the teachers are truly looking for how do we best meet the needs of kids.
Because you would have to have the teachers behind you to make this worthwhile.
Right,
Obviously.
right.
And it will be a good output of money. And you certainly would want to be aware that teachers are, hey, this is gonna be great. It's gonna mean more work for me, but I know it's gonna help my kids.
It's not, I don't think it's going to be more work in one sense, because when we put a kid out of school, all those teachers have to get those assignments together. It has to, you know, and it's an individual thing, and this actually will make it more of an electronic version of doing that, and where the the tutor has to make copies, you know, the teacher has to track it all. It's actually gonna be the teacher will have access to looking at that student's progress at the same time, because very seldom is the tutor, I mean, the tutor is one person, and the high school kids have 5, 6 different courses that they're taking.
Over
So,
the summer, you will have a summer school teacher or coordinator
yeah.
overseeing.
Yeah. And Russell, I've already spoken, Russell is the person that I would like to use as the tutor, because he has worked with it for a month now,
Mhm.
figuring out the intricacies, you know, and he is very willing to help with the training of other people as we're working on this.
Mhm.
But he tried a couple different things, and from what we see, this is the one that we feel is the most worthwhile for us.
So this would help you if you had a kid that failed, say, 9th grade English, and then but he moved on to 10th grade, but he's not allowed, he has to finish up to 10th. So could he take both courses at the same time?
We don't allow kids to take 2 English classes at the same time.
Well, I'm just wondering if this program would help him if he.
He would need to get it done in the summer. But this, you know, sometimes you have a student who goes through a particular emotional issue for a quarter, you know, and they've been a fairly, you know, like a 75 student all along. Well, you bomb one quarter at about, you know, some of them, you'll see a 30 or 40, that this would give us an opportunity to go back into that 10-week margin period. What did you do during that time from the teacher standpoint, and give the kids an option to do it again. But I think in that case, we're looking at running it after school, where the kid is still coming in and getting help, you know, to make up that time.
So that would go back and change that kid's quarter mark.
It would change, yeah. I mean, we're not here to fail kids and punish kids by failing them. We're here to try to get them to get the material under their belt.
No,
This is the way we can do it.
I talked to a kid the other day that was having that issue with failing a class and wanted to know if he could go on to the next class and take the same other class at the same time. And I said, I don't believe you can do that at this point. And then when you were doing this presentation, I was just thinking that whether that would actually take care of that issue. That's why I asked. So,
Do you think there's any student interest in using a program like this?
In using this kind of an idea,
Yeah.
for it to be successful, there has to be a mandated attendance idea. Meaning for summer school, if a student tries to do it on their own and they don't have to come to school, the chances of the student who wasn't motivated in the regular class to do it on their own is not good. Which is why with our summer school, we set it up for the 2 younger kids, that they had to be there every day. If you missed more than 1 day, they would be retained. They did very well. With the high school student that was not given that same structure, they did not get the work done, and there were 2 of them. So having them come, and we did this kind of a summer school program in North Carolina, having those kids having to commit to being at school every day for 4 hours makes a huge difference. But in the regular course year, when they're working on their reading and their math and things like that, I think that this is a good option for them, because we don't have enough staffing to say, we're only gonna have 7th graders in this class for academic intervention. We might have 7th graders and 9th graders in the same class. We might have a math teacher that's working with 7th grade math students in 9th grade, and maybe even 11th graders that didn't get through the Algebra 2 trig, all at the same time. This allows the teacher to set them up at whatever they need and keep them all working, rather than, you know, making it, you go do this, you know, like you can see that they're doing it when it's that computer program is reporting even to the detail to what lesson did you accomplish and what did you get done in this
Right.
time. The lessons are about 20 minutes to 30-minute type lessons, so they could easily be getting lessons done and teachers seeing progress, you know, and immediate feedback basically on how kids are doing.
You
So,
said you were looking at 10 seats,
10.
and there's not, and that would, what, 80 students? use that?
Well, 8 kids, there's 8 periods in a day. There's 8 periods in a day. There's 10 each period, so that's up to 80. That's during the school day. It's online, it's available after school, so, you know, it's a 24/7. In fact, if we have one student that's out of school and they don't ever get up in the morning, which many high school students do, their prime time working might be that 3 to 7 time. You know, they might be more productive at that time.
So it would cost 10 seats times
600, 6,000 plus the
6,000
2.
plus 2 is 8,000.
Now, I'm not sure, Sue had talked about that there's grant money to take care of that from the Title I grant money. But if we actually had to go to a BOCES, it would be a shared service, and after the first year, it would become the aidable because Messina and Brazier Falls are using it. So it depends how we pay for it, whether it goes into that way or if it goes in this other way.
And
But it's the grant money that we're gonna use this year, right?
Yes,
then after 1 year, you have to pay that 6,000 again for the 10 seats.
yes.
Yes. But if it's not through a grant and it's through BOCES, then the next year, we would get aid back on a shared service.
And if you pay with the grant, you can't get aid, right, just so people understand.
Did you see how the results are? At the end of 1 year? We're not committed to the
No, it's
3-year
just
program.
Just 1 year.
So if it works, we see the results in the testing, actually.
Well, we'll get a teacher survey too, and it's, you know, about how do you feel it went. Harrisville has run a room with with the Novanet for many years, and it's been a very successful room. And like I said, they don't send their GED kids out. They do use it for academic intervention services, and they use it, I believe they told me to use it for summer school as well. So, I mean, I don't know what we pay for BOCES for a student to go over there for the GED program, but could probably pay for the program itself.
It would.
So you're telling us that you think this would have a direct bearing on the state testing?
I would hope so. I mean, we're getting drilling right. We're getting to almost an IEP is a special education term. Well, kids that need response to intervention we're supposed to be coming up with individual plans, not through special ed, but the idea of how do you individually help this student. They don't qualify for special ed. We still have to have a response to intervention. And this is set up so that it can be used in that way. The one program, the skills diagnostic program, will identify weaknesses. Then you can either find it through the courses where the units are, or there's also a skills essential program that we can look into.
As far as payment goes, as far as the money goes, it's grantable for the first year?
No, you can always use your
You can
title
always
money
use
if you choose. So we said for the first year, we'll try our title.
Saying you're training 6, maybe 8 people, right?
To start with. It will grow as the year goes on and then as the need goes on, because when a student goes out of school suspension, all of a sudden I got 5 teachers that will probably be pulling in and say, you know, let's look at, this is the option that you probably will want to do.
You're gonna use these 6 or 8 teachers that you send there to train.
To help turnkey training,
Did
basically,
you
it's
do
the
that
same
like
way,
at a superintendent day, something like that?
or after school in our
Or
half-hour
after school.
administrative days. I mean, we're doing the same idea with the school tool program. That's next week on the 21st, we're training. We have about 8 teachers that have asked to come in, that are willing to come in to get trained on school tool, and they'll turn around and they'll be the liaisons for the other teachers.
We also probably and I think this is probably a minimum, have about 12 students a year that go out on medical leave. We will also be able to use this program for medical leave.
I can see using like the student who goes to detention, they can send their work right, and have their work right there. Because when I was here, I was, detention was just a waste of time.
I don't know if it's that quick to just say, do
Yeah.
this lesson, but I can see the kid who's out for 5 days putting something together very quickly for that student who's out for 5
So
days.
you could give them something that's related to what they're supposed to be
A
learning.
little bit more practical and
Yeah.
have work in front of them.
Okay, the other thing that I wanted to present, and I gave you handouts on this, is the AP course exams. Because we are expanding the AP program, I talked with Jim Buckley and got his input on this too, and he feels very strongly that we have students who work very hard in some AP courses, and we have some students who don't work very hard, and there's a motivation problem sometimes. And the school has been funding the exams. They cost $86 per person. The student in the past has paid $25 for the ability to take the AP exam, and then the school has paid the rest of the AP cost. The problem is that we have some students that we don't feel have demonstrated the effort or the ability necessarily to get a 3, 4, or 5. To get college credit, you have to score at least a level 3 on the AP exam. So what I've given you is the last 3 years of AP results with the score that they got on the exam and their average at the end of the year. And what I would propose is that I have 2 different proposals here, and I put these together before I actually got the data to look and see how does that work out. The first proposal would be to have students that have attained an average of 90 to 100 after 3 semesters earn the right to take the test at no cost. Students who are between an 85 and an 89.9 would get half of their exam paid for, and they would pay the other half. And students who were at an 84.9 or lower would have to pay for the entire exam. The purpose was basically for motivation, for students to really have to work to do what they should do. No student is denied the opportunity to enroll in an AP course. In some schools, there's a criteria that you have to earn a certain grade to be able to be in an AP course. We don't do that. So knowing that we don't deny any student the opportunity to take the course, we are basically paying for a lot of students to take it. It's going to get more because we've just added 2 more AP classes. So our premise is a student must show the ability to receive a 3, 4, or 5 on the class, or to receive a high grade on class exams to warrant the school spending that money for the students to take the AP courses. If you look, you're going to see through this paperwork that there's some stars next to grades. There was one student had a 74 in the class but received a 3 on the exam. That would be an underachiever in the classroom. And there's an 82 that scored a 3. There's an 81 that scored a 3. An 83 that scored a 3. There's a 70 that scored a 4. For a student to get a 70 in the class and then to knock out a 4 on the AP exam means that they weren't performing for that teacher. So when Jim and I talked about it, we felt that that criteria was pretty good. But then I looked at our online instructor for the calculus AB. Those 2 students got an 84 and an 85. and then got 4s on the exam. So there you obviously have an instructor who's demanding a lot out of their kids.
Right.
And the result is they get, this was, I can't say names, so I'll leave it at that, but these are two of our very top students taking this course. And their classroom averages were an 84 and an 85, but they were 4s on the exam, which means this guy's tough. So then that's actually the second proposal that I had already put on the paper. I would probably go and recommend that instead. I think to use 85 as an average, going back to that idea of on a Regents exam, 85 is mastery. Trying to carry over that idea that maybe kids that they have to get an 85 or higher in order to have no fee paid, and if it's below that, they have the option to take the test, but they must pay for the exam. We went to this at prep from the idea that we had a lot of kids in AP courses because they were not denied the ability or the right to take the course, but then there were a lot of level 1s. So why are you paying that much money for level 1s? Just because you get an 85 or higher does not mean that you automatically will get a level 3 on these exams. You'll see that too, though. There's plenty of kids that did not score higher than a 1 or 2 that still got a good average in the class. But I think the purpose is to try to get those kids who are not motivated, who are not working to their potential, to have to do it in order to take the exam. We did have a student that carried about I think it was a 66 this year in AP, no, that was 2010, that scored a level 2. Even to show just a 66 and get a level 2 means that student really was not working to their ability. So if they worked to their ability, they probably would be able to knock out that 3. So that's a concept, and we can come back to it. It's not something to be done right now, but something to be thought about, considered, but we should be letting students know at the beginning of the school year. So probably at the next board meeting, we need to bring that back up again and discuss it. And take time to look at the numbers and get a feel for what you feel in that regard.
So currently, right now, all students that take the exam are charged $25.
Free and reduced lunch students, if the state comes through with waivers, which it has been over the last few years, do not pay anything.
Everybody else pays $25?
Right.
What would you say the percentages of that? What would you say the percentage of free and reduced that right now?
I have
No idea.
no idea. As far as which kids, how many kids in here, I have not.
Michelle, how can we make sure that the kids are doing the best they can and their parents can't afford to pay for the test? How can we make sure that the kids that are willing to try to do the best they can still get a chance to take the test? Because I know this puts them a big up on when they go to college.
I guess the thing is that Mr. Buckley's available, like the teacher of that class, and it'll be new with Mrs. Morgan and Mr. Albert teaching the course new. He's willing to help kids. It's not catching the kid who's like a 70 student. It's not going to truly make a difference for a 70 student who is working their best. No matter what they do, if you're working your hardest and your best is a 70, that's fine, because we're not going to say you can't take that course, but realistically, to take the exam, they're not going to come above a 1 or a 2. They truly aren't. If a student is a 70 student and has not been working to their potential, that's the kid who, why should we fund that test if they're not working to their potential?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the kid who's
Right.
not doing very much. I'm concerned about the kid who's struggling and really wants to do better, whether it's, give himself a better life and these AP courses will give them a big up once they get into college.
It's not taking them out of the course, it's not mandated for them to take the exam to pass the course. The exam is only about whether the college is going to recognize them
Recognize their
for
score.
having credit. And not all colleges actually even accept the AP scores as, you know, Linda, today I asked her, they said Cornell doesn't take, they expect you to have taken AP courses, but they don't care that exam, you're not gonna get college credit for it. So it depends on the college, how they actually use them.
I've heard that. from
But
some
I think
colleges.
any college that looks at a student who's choosing to take AP courses, that is a positive thing, no matter if they to me, no matter if they take the exam or not. Because that shows that they have worked their tail off, that, you know, it doesn't mean they worked their tail off, but for the kid who's a 70, 80, you know, when you put all the pieces together, they're gonna see, you know, I'm thinking about last year, one particular senior girl, she did great to make it through that course, and she was about a 70, 72, but that was a big accomplishment for that particular student. I'd rather go that way, Lynn, than to ever tell any student, you have to have had a 92 in chemistry to be able to take AP biology. And that's what some schools do. I don't think we should do that. I think any student should be able to take an AP course. But I don't think it's necessary for all of them to take the exams. And that's a way, you know, financially to cut things back.
I just want to make sure the financial cutbacks don't hit the wrong group, that's what my concern is.
I don't have a warm fuzzy feeling charging somebody $85. That just doesn't feel right to me.
But they don't have to if they've done what they needed to do in the course to start with.
But,
Kristen, you don't wanna charge, I didn't understand.
I don't, I would say stay with what we're doing right now. You know, you're gonna tell some parent that you gotta come up with $85, that's still a lot of money to me, anyways. I'm sure it's a lot. $25 is a little.
See, what I'm thinking is I'm telling a student that you need to work hard academically and earn this, and it's there for you for nothing.
Right, but and I agree with everything you're saying, but there's better ways of motivation than charging somebody like.
The wrong person's going to be paying.
But we can discuss.
You guys will think about it, come back and tell me which way you want me to go. The other option is to do just what Chris said, to stay as it is. The third option is not charge anybody anything, but then, I don't know, yeah.
Okay, Sue, do you have?
Give me a second, I had to write